Well, we shared some exciting news a few weeks ago about the Honor Flight taking a second trip this year. It's kind of a once in a year sort of thing because it's not going to be that way going forward. But we're joined by Angela Allen, the president of the Honor Flight, to kind of explain that change and what's going on right now with this second flight and choosing the veterans. So, Angela, tell us why we made that change in moving to October and having this second flight.
Yeah, so I think, going back, our organization, our hub, has existed in Lubbock since 2012, and initially we started as a fall flight. September or October of each year, we went to DC, and then we had restrictions with the COVID-19 pandemic, and were unable to fly for about 2 years. So when restrictions lifted, our group said, hey, we need to get a flight off the ground. We need to get some heroes to DC as quickly as we can. And the quickest that we could do that was May. So we trialed doing a summer flight. This last year we went at the beginning of June, had a really great time, but it was pretty warm. It was hot. We had we wanted to make sure that we weren't having any health-related issues related to the heat, and realized that our veterans just weren't able to enjoy it fully because of the sunshine and the heat. And so when we got back, we as a board and then with our committee voted to transition back to a fall flight each year. So when we were looking at it, we decided that 16 months, if we were waiting until fall of 2025, would be too long. We have an extensive wait list of applications, and so we decided, hey, let's go ahead and take a second flight this year so that we can make a dip into that wait list of veterans, but also get us back on the schedule of a fall flight.
Yeah, we're not used to that Washington humidity.
No,
DC
absolutely
humidity.
not.
So it'll be great to get back to that fall,
Yes.
and great to have, as you mentioned, another plane full of veterans going for a second time this year. So mentioning that plane full, where are we now in selecting veterans, and what's that process like for you guys?
So when we receive applications, our applications are online at the Texas South Plains HonorFlight.org, and a veteran can fill out an application. At that time, they should get an email confirmation that their application has been received, and then it goes into our database. First and foremost, we keep all applications until a veteran is selected or they choose to be removed from the list. So if you've applied once, that's all you need to do. From there, about 3 months before a trip, so right now we are in the process of notifying a certain number of veterans. We usually do medical clearances on about 100 veterans, so that we can finalize a list of about 85 veterans to take on the flight. And so we're in that process now. Letters have gone out to that first batch of veterans for medical clearances, which we'll be conducting over the next couple of weeks. And then from there, we will start to finalize our list, replace any veterans who are unable to go with alternates, and ultimately end up with 85 veterans on our trip in October.
And as you're watching this, those letters went out August 10th, kind of that weekend.
For medical clearances, yes.
So be checking your mail, but we also want to point out that even if you kind of don't get through this medical clearance process or get selected for that flight, your information's still with you guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we make selections each year, each trip, based on age, with our oldest veterans having the priority. And so each year is a little bit different. In June, our youngest veteran, I believe, was 74. And I'm not quite sure what our October trip will look like, but it just changes based on the applications we receive. But yes, we do keep those on file until a veteran is selected, whether that's next year or in 5 years, we keep that. Of course, we also do give special priority to veterans that we consider last chance veterans who, for health reasons, may not have an opportunity to go next year. And so a veteran would just need to make us aware that that was the case, and we will make sure that they are considered for the next flight.
And there are alternates as well, and that's also a chance where you probably will get to go, right?
Absolutely. I can tell you, for example, for our June trip, we did medical clearances on about 130 veterans, and for whatever reason, there were grandkids that had graduations or weddings that got scheduled, or some for health reasons that weren't able to go in June but now are going to get to go in October. There's an ebb and flow, and so we definitely get through our alternate list. So just because you're an alternate does not mean that you will not get to go on the trip this year.
And something else that's great, you guys have opened this, just since this last trip, opened it up to veterans who are on oxygen all the time, right?
Correct. Yeah. Previously, we were not able to accommodate veterans who used daytime oxygen, but now we are able to take those veterans. Our medical staff have had training on the portable oxygen concentrators. We've worked very closely with the airline to make sure that we're in compliance with that. And so in June, we took our first daytime oxygen veterans to Washington, D.C., and everything went very well. So we are excited that we don't have to limit this trip for anyone. Any veteran who was on the list or who had applied previously that may have been declined from going on the trip related to oxygen has been contacted and has been given the opportunity to come to medical clearance here in the next couple of weeks.
That's great. Anything else about this process that you would want veterans to know? I know there are a lot of people eager to understand what's going on, giving a shout out to you guys, but again, they should be getting their mail and that sort of thing. Anything else you would want them to know?
Absolutely. So we do most of our correspondence by mail. So you'll get a letter if you're selected for medical clearance. Again, if you don't receive that letter, don't fret. If your application is in, we will keep it until you're selected. We have a wait list right now at about 300 veterans who have applied. And so that's part of the reason doing this second trip is so that we can kind of dip into that and hopefully get into our wait list just a little bit.
And that's 85 more veterans. So
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And thankfully the community's been really generous to make that possible, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are very lucky that we live in such a supportive community, businesses and individuals alike. We have a couple of big fundraisers that we do throughout the year that really help us. But even just a donation on our website is very helpful to make this possible. The trip itself is about a $250,000 endeavor. We have been very lucky that fundraising efforts continued during the pandemic, and so we got about a trip ahead. But in doing a second flight this year, that's going to dip into the bank account a little bit. And so we just ask for continued support for our community so that we can make this second trip happen in 2024 and then continue on our fall schedule for 2025 and so on.
It's really exciting and like you said, a great opportunity
Absolutely.
to get another plane full of heroes to DC. And as Angela mentioned, there are several fundraising opportunities. You can go to their website to donate or join us November 11th for our telethon right here in this studio. We'll be asking for your help to support the Texas South Plains Honor Flight. It's all community donations that make this possible. This Honor Flight staff, like Angela, they don't get paid for this, but they do it out of the kindness of their heart and volunteer. So if you can't give financially, give of your time as well. You can volunteer to be a part of this flight and making sure that those fundraisers and flights are planned each and every year. So Angela, thanks so much for being with us.
So much.
And you can go to kcbd.com as well for a link to donate.